Someone just humiliated you in front of others. Your boss questioned your competence publicly. A colleague stole credit for your work while you watched helplessly. And in that moment, you felt powerless. Here's what nobody tells you. You had exactly 5 seconds to completely flip that dynamic, but you didn't know the technique. Today, I'm going to reveal the Machiavellian method that transforms you from victim to victor in the time it takes to draw a single breath. This isn't about becoming aggressive. It's about surgical precision in the moment that matters most. By the end of this video, you'll possess a psychological weapon that can reverse any power play before it solidifies. I'm speaking to you as Niccolò Machiavelli would have spoken to the princes of Renaissance Italy. In my time, I observed that power is not a fixed attribute. It is a perception that exists in the space between two people, and that perception can be shattered and rebuilt in moments. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is not strength, wealth, or even intelligence. It is the ability to recognize when power is fluid and execute a precise move that crystallizes it in your favor. What I am about to teach you is the art of the 5-second quick strike, a calculated method to reverse any power dynamic before your opponent realizes the game has changed. Most people fail because they react emotionally when they should respond strategically. They either submit immediately or resist clumsily, both of which cement their subordinate position. You will learn to do neither. You will learn to strike with the precision of a Renaissance assassin. Picture this moment: you're in a meeting and someone launches an attack. Do you even know what you're doing with this project? The words hit you like a slap. Your heart starts racing, adrenaline floods your system, and every fiber of your being screams at you to defend yourself immediately. Your mouth opens, ready to spill justifications, explanations, reasons why they're wrong. Stop right there. This is the exact moment where the weak surrender their power and the strong seize it. Here's what you don't understand about confrontation. When someone attacks you verbally, they're not just questioning your competence. They're making a calculated bet on your psychology. They're betting that you're so terrified of uncomfortable silence that you'll rush to fill it with nervous explanations. They're counting on you to accept the role they've assigned you, the defendant in their courtroom, scrambling to prove your innocence. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is a weapon sharper than any comeback you could devise. When that attack lands, and your instincts scream at you to react, you're going to do something that feels completely unnatural. You're going to pause. Not because you're confused or intimidated, but because you're so secure in your position that their attack barely registers as significant enough to warrant an immediate response. For 5 full seconds, you're going to let their words hang in the air like smoke. You're going to maintain calm eye contact, not aggressive staring, but the steady gaze of someone evaluating a minor inconvenience. Your shoulders will remain relaxed. You will not fidget. You will not blink rapidly. You will not offer nervous laughter to break the tension they created. Watch what happens during those 5 seconds. The person who just attacked you starts to feel the weight of their own aggression. They begin to hear their words the way everyone else in the room heard them. Was that too harsh? Did I overstep? Why aren't they defending themselves? Are they so confident that my attack doesn't even deserve a response? Their certainty starts to crack while yours solidifies. This pause accomplishes something extraordinary. You transform yourself from a defendant scrambling for a defense into a judge weighing a sentence. You demonstrate that you control the tempo of this interaction, not them. You signal that their words have not captured your emotional state, that you choose your responses like a king signs a decree, slowly, deliberately, without haste. When you finally do speak after those 5 seconds, you don't explain your worth. You question theirs. You don't rush to defend your position. You force them to defend their behavior. The 5-second silence is the blade you keep hidden until they have already exposed their throat. This is how you flip any power dynamic before you say a single word. Here's the moment where most people surrender their power without realizing it. Someone walks into your office and says, "Why is this project behind schedule again?" Your brain immediately starts calculating responses. You think about the server crashes, the delayed approvals, the scope changes nobody anticipated. You open your mouth to explain, and in that instant, you have already lost a battle you didn't even know you were fighting. What just happened? You accepted their frame. The frame is the invisible courtroom where every interaction takes place. It determines who sits on the judge's bench and who stands in the defendant's box. It establishes what questions are legitimate and what answers are acceptable. When someone asks why your project is behind schedule, they're not seeking information. They're constructing a reality where you are the incompetent project manager and they are the disappointed authority evaluating your failure. Most people never see this trap coming. They dive headfirst into explanations, listing every obstacle they faced, desperately trying to prove they're not the incompetent person the frame suggests they are. But here's the brutal truth. Every word of explanation confirms the frame. You're arguing your case in their courtroom, and in their courtroom, the verdict was decided before you opened your mouth. Machiavelli understood that the content of an argument is irrelevant. The context is everything. The moment you defend yourself against an accusation, you validate their authority to make it. You transform from an equal into a subordinate seeking approval. This is why the weak lose power battles before they even speak. They accept the role they're assigned instead of choosing the role they want. Frame control demands something that feels completely unnatural. You must refuse to argue within the frame they create, not by getting defensive, not by getting angry, but by establishing a completely different frame where the power dynamics are reversed. When they ask why your project is behind schedule, you don't defend your timeline. After 5 seconds of calm silence, you reframe entirely. I'm prioritizing quality over speed on this deliverable. Which would you prefer I compromise? Watch what just happened. The frame shifted from you failed to meet expectations to I'm making strategic decisions about project priorities. You transformed from defendant to decision maker. They're no longer evaluating your competence. They're being asked to clarify their priorities, which positions you as someone whose professional judgment matters. This works everywhere. When someone says you're being too sensitive, the weak respond with, "No, I'm not sensitive. I just think that..." They're arguing within a frame that labels them as emotionally unstable. The powerful respond differently. "No, I'm being clear about my standards." Same situation, completely different frame. One frame has you defending your emotional stability. The other has you establishing your professional boundaries. Here's the technique that destroys any attack. Instead of answering their question, address the intent behind it. Treat their aggression not as a command to be obeyed, but as behavior to be analyzed. When someone says your work is a disaster, you don't apologize or explain the methodology. You look at them calmly and say, "You seem very frustrated about something. What's really going on?" Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about your competence, it's about their emotional control. You've moved from the accused to the evaluator, from the graded to the one holding the clipboard. Every interaction is a battle for frame control, and whoever wins that battle wins everything that follows. The weak argue facts within hostile frames. The powerful reject hostile frames entirely and establish their own where they hold the authority. Never fight on a battlefield chosen by your enemy, because the enemy who chooses the battlefield has already decided how the battle ends. There is one weapon more devastating than any verbal comeback, more powerful than any argument, more terrifying than any threat. It is the absolute calculated power of indifference. Most people will never understand this because they are slaves to their own desperation. But the person who appears to need the interaction least always holds the power. Here's the brutal truth about human nature that Machiavelli understood centuries ago. We are validation-seeking creatures. Every time you enter a room, start a negotiation, or face a confrontation, your body language screams your level of need. Are you the hunter or the hunted? Are you chasing approval or granting access? The moment someone detects that you need them more than they need you, the power dynamic crystallizes in their favor. Watch how this plays out everywhere. In business negotiations, the person sweating about closing the deal always accepts worse terms. In job interviews, the candidate who seems desperate for the position gets lowball offers. In relationships, whoever cares more gets treated worse. This isn't cruelty. This is market dynamics. Scarcity creates value, and desperation advertises abundance. But what happens when you flip this script entirely? Picture this: a client leans forward aggressively and says, "If you want this deal, you'll have to cut your price in half. There are plenty of others who will do it cheaper." The weak immediately panic. They start justifying, bargaining, pleading. "Maybe I can adjust it a little, maybe we can work something out." They've just confessed their desperation. You do something completely different. 5 seconds of calm silence. Then, without anger or defensiveness, you deliver the line that shatters their leverage. "If price is your main concern, I'm probably not the right fit for you." Not a threat, not a negotiation. Just a simple statement from someone who has options. Watch what happens in that moment. The fear transfers from you to them. They start wondering why you're not desperate. Do you have better offers? Are you so confident in your value that losing them doesn't matter? Your indifference forces them to chase you because you've demonstrated that your self-respect isn't negotiable. This is not about being cold. This is about signaling that while you might want an outcome, you don't need it to validate your worth. When you can genuinely walk away, you rarely have to, because people will fight to keep someone who treats their presence as a privilege, not a given. The person who cares less always wins because they've made their value internal, not external. Indifference is the ultimate power move because it proves you are complete with or without their approval. It transforms you from applicant to selector, from contestant to prize. Master this display, and you master the fundamental principle that separates those who beg for respect from those who command it simply by existing. When someone launches a power play against you, every instinct in your body screams the same message: fight back with equal force. They raise their voice, so you raise yours louder. They challenge your authority, so you assert it more aggressively. They attack your competence, so you defend it more passionately. This feels like strength, but Machiavelli would call it the strategy of amateurs. You've just walked directly into their trap, because now you're playing their game, on their battlefield, with their chosen weapons. Here's the brutal truth about confrontation that most people never grasp. Every aggressor enters the battle with a script already written in their mind. They've rehearsed your responses, predicted your defenses, and prepared their follow-up attacks. When you react predictably, their brain says, "Perfect. This is going exactly as planned." They expected resistance, so they brought more force. They expected defense, so they prepared stronger attacks. They wanted you emotional, so they can call you unstable. Your predictable response is the fuel that powers their entire strategy. The counter-strike philosophy operates on a principle that destroys this dynamic entirely: asymmetric warfare. You never meet force with equivalent force. Instead, you respond with something so unexpected that it shatters their prepared script and forces them to operate in territory they never mapped. When someone brings fire, you bring ice. When they bring chaos, you bring surgical precision. When they bring volume, you bring whisper, quiet composure that makes their shouting look unhinged. Picture this scenario. A colleague storms into your office, voice raised, slamming documents on your desk, trying to intimidate you with sheer presence and volume. Their entire strategy depends on triggering your fight or flight response. They want you angry so they can call you unprofessional, or cowering so they can dominate you. Every fiber of your being wants to match their energy, to stand up and fight back at their level. You do the exact opposite. After your 5-second pause, you don't raise your voice. You lower it to just above a whisper. You don't lean forward aggressively. You lean back, completely relaxed. You don't speed up your responses. You slow them down deliberately. Then you deliver a line that cuts through their emotional fog like a scalpel. I can see this is important to you, but shouting makes it difficult to understand your actual point. Could you rephrase that calmly? Watch what just happened. You denied their aggression the resistance it needs to survive. Anger requires opposition to burn bright. By refusing to provide fuel, you suffocated their outburst. They now face an impossible choice: calm down to meet you at your level, which is an act of submission, or continue shouting at a composed person, which makes them look unstable to everyone watching. You've created cognitive dissonance in their brain. They prepared for battle, and you offered them a mirror to examine their own behavior. But the counter-strike philosophy adapts to every type of attack. Consider the opposite scenario. Someone tries to undermine you with passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern or humor. Wow, that's certainly a bold choice for the presentation. If you get defensive, you look insecure. If you ignore it, you appear weak. The counter-strike here is brutal literalism. You strip away their cowardly disguise and force them to own their insult directly. You look them in the eye with genuine curiosity and ask, "I don't understand. Can you explain exactly what you mean by that?" Watch them squirm as they try to backtrack, claiming it was just a joke, while everyone in the room now sees their pettiness exposed in harsh light. By treating their covert aggression with overt seriousness, you've turned their own weapon against them without ever raising your voice or appearing defensive. The power of this technique lies in its surgical precision. When someone uses authority to intimidate you, saying, "If you can't handle this responsibility, maybe this role isn't for you," the weak plead and justify. You pause for 5 seconds, maintain steady eye contact, and respond with devastating calm. If that's your assessment, we should discuss it directly rather than implying it. What specific changes would you like to see? You've just dragged their veiled threat into the light where it looks clumsy and unprofessional, while positioning yourself as someone seeking clarity, not someone begging for mercy. This is asymmetric warfare at its finest. They expected you to either submit to their implied threat or get emotional about job security. You created a third option, where you treat their intimidation as a management discussion that requires their input. Suddenly, they must either back down from their threat or articulate specific criticisms they may not actually have. Either way, you've regained control of the interaction. The counter-strike philosophy works because it violates every assumption your opponent made about how the confrontation would unfold. They prepared for predictable responses, and you gave them something that doesn't fit any category they understand. This creates a moment of psychological paralysis where they must recalculate everything while you operate from a position of deliberate strategy. You win not by overpowering them, but by outmaneuvering them so completely that their aggression becomes the very thing that exposes their weakness. In the game of power, the person who controls the unexpected controls everything. Every interaction begins with an invisible auction where someone becomes the prize and someone becomes the bidder. Within 30 seconds, the hierarchy crystallizes who is auditioning for whom. The tragedy is that most people walk into every room as contestants hoping to be selected and then wonder why they're treated as replaceable. Machiavelli would tell you that status is not determined by your title or bank account. Status is a behavioral performance, and whoever performs higher status more convincingly claims that throne, regardless of what the organizational chart says. Watch this dynamic everywhere. In job interviews, the candidate leans forward eagerly, laughs at weak jokes, and asks safe questions designed not to offend. The interviewer leans back, occasionally checks their phone, and probes for weaknesses. The hierarchy was established not by credentials, but by who is trying to impress whom. The candidate accepted the role of supplicant, and every subsequent word reinforces their subordinate position. The status inversion technique operates on a revolutionary principle. You behaviorally claim the evaluator role, even when circumstances suggest you should be evaluated. This transformation happens through micro-behaviors that communicate one message: I am here to assess whether this situation meets my standards, not to prove I meet yours. It starts with response timing. When asked a challenging question, the weak answer immediately, rushing to prove themselves. You pause for 5 full seconds, glance around the environment as if considering whether this conversation deserves your attention, then respond with the calm of someone granting an audience rather than seeking one. Your questions become weapons of inversion. Instead of just answering their inquiries, you audit them. In that job interview, after their company pitch, you don't nod eagerly. You lean back and ask, what does your company do to develop people beyond basic job requirements? You've shifted from please choose me to convince me you're worth my talent. Body language completes the transformation. When someone tries intimidation, leaning into your space, you don't mirror their aggression or shrink backward. You maintain relaxed shoulders, lean slightly back as if giving them room to finish their performance, and observe their behavior with mild professional interest, not fear. The ultimate power move is demonstrating willingness to walk away. When faced with disrespect, you don't argue. You state your boundary and prepare to exit. If this is the dynamic, we're not a good fit. Then you actually stand up and head toward the door. Watch their brain recalculate everything. Your willingness to leave transforms you from supplicant to selector. This is not manipulation. This is claiming the status your competence always deserved. Most people perform low status from habit, then wonder why they're treated as subordinates. Master this inversion, and you master being treated as valuable in every room you enter, because humans respond to status signals more than credentials. You now possess something more valuable than any title or credential: the knowledge that every power dynamic can be shattered and rebuilt in the space of 5 heartbeats. Through strategic silence that forces aggressors to question their own behavior, frame control that refuses to argue in courts designed for your defeat, calculated indifference that proves your worth is non-negotiable, asymmetric counterstrikes that destroy predictable attacks with surgical precision, and status inversion that transforms you from contestant to judge. You have the arsenal to reclaim your authority in any room. But Machiavelli would remind you that understanding these principles means nothing without the discipline to execute them when your pulse is racing and every instinct screams at you to react emotionally instead of responding strategically. The world is filled with those who will test your boundaries to discover what they can extract from you. Use these techniques not to dominate others unnecessarily, but to ensure that respect for your position is never again optional. In those critical 5 seconds between attack and response, you will either accept the subordinate role they assign you, or you will deploy one of these weapons with calculated precision and watch their assumed authority crumble. True power belongs not to those who demand it loudest, but to those who have the courage to seize it in the quiet moments when hierarchy hangs in the balance, waiting for a hand steady enough to reshape it entirely.